Right, so our next talk is by Kiwi about migration to testing and visualization.
Thank you. So this is like a four-part presentation. I'll present some context, talk about migration to testing as a general topic, and then focus on visualization, and then conclude with some perspectives. So the context is, we'll start with a show of hands. Who maintains a package? At least one. Okay? Who keeps an eye on migration to testing? Like, are you checking that your package migrates after some time and so on? Okay. And who already noticed that one's package was blocked by another package for reasons that you might or might not understand? Okay, still some people. Hopefully that should be interesting for other people not raising their hands or being a bit timid and whatever. So, are there anybody who had trouble grasping the whole picture? Like, I've got this package depending or blocked by this other package and that other package and so on? Okay, still some people. I see secret team people, Perl people. So, I'm just throwing that for context. I'm not going to advertise for my company, but basically I do Debian stuff. I'm a consultant. I've been doing that for a couple of years. It's so really Debian focused. And amongst the different services I offer there's systems administration, and I'm going to focus on that part. What I really like to use is a centralized solution for administrative purposes, because SSHing to 1 and 2 and dozens and hundreds and thousands of servers was already not fine 10 or 20 years ago, but now we've got tools, Puppet, Ansible, and whatever. So I really like to use Puppet. So it's centralized, you've got deployment, maintenance, the whole history of your setup. That's really nice. You get automation. But then how do you monitor that all your nodes are working fine, are getting updated regularly, that there's no recipe troubles with your nodes? There are a couple of solutions. You can plug your Puppet onto Foreman, for example, which is a bigger solution that can take care of the whole installation, maintenance, and decommission cycle for your machines, taking care of installation and then getting rid of all the secrets when you don't use a machine anymore. But that's a big hammer if you want to use Puppet on a dozen or maybe 3-4 machines. There's also Puppet Enterprise, which I never use because I don't want to pay for free software or the additional bits. And so I switched to some scripts that I wrote, parsing YAML reports and then sending XMPP notifications so that I know that, oh, this node failed to update, or that one just got this part updated, or whatever, which is nice as a complementary entry point. Like, I just upgraded or refreshed my Let's Encrypt certificate or whatever. You see that something moved there, and it's on Sunday, 3 in the morning, that's good. But it doesn't really scale. I mean, you don't want to be parsing YAML reports because maybe they are going to evolve a bit, and then your parsing is maybe not really optimal or whatever. So we had a thing called Puppet Dashboard, which is no longer anymore, which is not maintained anymore, and which got replaced by Puppet Board, which is a web interface to something that will collect all the information you will want to get from your nodes, which is puppetdb. All good, let's use that. Except it was not unstable, and it was not in testing when I tried to look into it. I'm also doing Puppet sessions, and monitoring is a really common question, and I still couldn't answer, oh, just use just use Puppetboard with puppetdb because I never had a chance to actually install it and try it for real. So what do we do? We'll see how migration to testing works. So it's probably going to be some kind of topic you're familiar with, but I'm going to throw just reminders and a few pointers so you understand how bad it can get when your package wants to migrate to testing, but other packages don't want to, or bugs or whatever. So a package uploaded to Ansible might not be old enough to migrate to testing. We want packages to have a chance to get installed, tested, and whatever by automated tools and by users. It might have new RC bugs, so the release critical bugs, which are by definition the bugs that we don't want in a release. So that's another reason. You might have unsatisfiable dependencies and or build dependencies. For example, you depend on a package that has not reached testing yet, or which got removed from testing. So maybe you want to work on that other package to help yours get into testing. And the same is true for the build dependencies as well. You might have some other issue detected by PewParts, which is an automated tool to test the installation, upgrade, and removal of packages, or which is a bit brand new on a Debian scale, continuous integration issues. We've got some automated package tests which are run by a CI infra, and if there are no new issues compared to other runs, this is a green light. Otherwise, you can get blocked because there's a regression in the testing of your package. Of course, the package can be kept out on purpose because those bad release team people don't want your package to reach testing yet. Usually, if you're the one as a maintainer who don't want your package to reach testing, you would use an RC bug on purpose. I don't want my package to migrate, so I'm tagging it as not a candidate because it has at least one RC bug. On occasion, we've got some synchronization issue with the BTS, and when looking at the list of RC bugs for all packages, there were none. So all packages became a candidate for this specific criterion. So that was a bit of a mistake, but anyway, we can block packages on purpose. And it can be blocked by the really bad DI release manager because I'm preparing a new DI release and I don't want moving parts to move under my feet. So I'm usually freezing with block UDEB hints that tells Brittany, I don't want this specific package to migrate because I'm finishing up my preparation for this new Debian installer release. And of course, it can be any or all of those reasons because they are cumulative. But then what do I do? How do I understand what's going on, why I'm being blocked, why there's no migration? The first step is the package tracker, so tracker.debian.org, and then you stash your source package name there. And there's also the excuses page, which is generated by Brittany, our tool, who controls migration to testing. And of course, you might have to follow some links. We'll see that with some examples. So the first one is Avril, which is an incredibly stupid web server. And in the testing migration area, right here, we see that it migrates after another package, which is Erlang Cowboy. That's one of its dependency, and maybe it needs a newer version, or there's some kind of relationship that means we should have those two packages migrate together. So if that other one is blocked because it has an RC bug or whatever, yours is getting blocked as well. It's also too young. It only was uploaded in the last 24 hours or so. PewParts, the automated installation upgrade removal tool, says OK. There's apparently no build dependency issue that was tested on EMD64. And anyway, because all those screenshots were taken a couple of weeks ago, we were already in freeze, so we see the block request by the release team as well. In the end, it's not considered, it's not a candidate, we won't even try to migrate it when Britney will process all the packages. We can check the same package, so with the update excuses URL with hashtag Avril to locate this specific bit, and oh, that looks very much the same, of course, because that part is passed and inserted into the package tracker. A less easy package is GitLab. We see that it migrates after many other packages, so GitLab shell and many Golang packages and Ruby packages and whatever. We see that the age requirement is okay. It's got already 18 days out of 5 that was needed. And it's missing some depends, like Node.js and Ruby Hamlet, whatever. It also has an RC bug, but Puppet was okay. So there are many reasons to keep it out of migration, but at least one part was okay. And it's also blocked because we're still in freeze and blah, blah, blah. If we look at the excuses page, it's slightly different, but we can imagine how this one was parsed and then inserted into the tracker. But then, if you want to get the whole picture, you get to click on each and every of those packages, the GitLab shell, the Ruby thing, the Golang, blah, 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 and so on. And maybe those packages also have many reasons for not being candidate for migration. So what do I do? Let's go into the visualization topic. The first solution is pen and paper. It's really plain and simple. You get a pen, some paper, and you draw graphs manually. But so at some point, when it's really a big graph, you might lose your count, and then, oh, I don't have any place anymore, so I'm going to draw some arrows here and there, and it's going to be a big mess. Also, I'm not an artist. I'm not going to even try that. Another solution is manual Graphviz. Graphviz is a set of tools that makes it possible to describe some graphs by using some text and telling the tool, okay, I've got this node connected to that node, this node connected to that node. You can add some colors. You can make it a directed or not directed graph, and so on. And you can, of course, try to automate it. So what I did first was not try the first solution and skip to the second solution, which is manual Graphviz. The algorithm is really simple. You start with the package you're interested in, so that might be puppetdb. You click all the links to all involved packages, and on your dot file, you insert links between puppetdb and the first package, puppetdb and the second package, and so on. And then for each and every package you click on, you insert the same kind of links, and you will build the whole graph this way. Of course, you do that recursively because you want to get the whole picture. And you might want to be extra careful not to forget one package and not to do the same package over and over again. And that can happen. For example, puppetdb is about Ruby and Clojure packages that I'm not familiar with. So all the package names look the same to me. And you need to be extra careful and to have some kind of methodology when it comes to big sets of packages. So this is an example to show you the Graphviz syntax. We are on a digraph, so a directed graph. We want arrows to have a direction. I'm going from left to right. All the nodes are going to shape with a box. By default, we've got an ellipsis, which makes it larger and less easy to read. And this is the first part, the first step, puppetdb, arrow, and the many packages it depended on. And I use a color code blue for some reason. And then for each and every package, I iterated and then I did all the links to get the whole thing. And this is what we get after way too many steps. That's a total of 36 transition or connections between nodes. And we can see puppetdb on the far left, depending on a set of packages, which themselves might depend on some other subsets of packages. And basically, if I wanted to have puppetdb in testing, I might need to look into each and every of all those packages. So I did that. I checked the RC bugs, and most of them were failure to build from source. And I tried to fix them or downgrade them when I couldn't reproduce them. The common bugs were test failures for closure packages. Compared to other test suites, they are a bit awkward because there's no entry point. You don't say, hey, run the test suite. You're supposed to go and find all closure test cases and run them. And for a number of packages, running them in a specific order was fine, and in a different order led to some failures. So you had to find a way to run them in the right order. It was a bit strange at first because some people were reproducing the bugs all the time, and me, I just couldn't. Until we figured that the test cases were found by the find utility, which, contrary to ls, is not sorting the outputs. So it really depends on your file system, how the files were copied, what happened before, and whatever. So I cheated a bit because there were apparently no metadata to tell you in which way you should run the test. So it was basically I run find, then I sort all the files, and if that works, I include this specific order that works, at least for me right now, in the Debian rules file, and that goes. If that doesn't work, you try to sort them in reverse order because that might work. And after a while, a few packages needed to have some really specific order, so you had to encode, I want to run that test, and that test, and that test, and for this specific version, that works. So we've got a few failures, as in some bugs were downgraded to important or just closed because we couldn't reproduce them. So I needed some help to figure out, oh, but that one is actually not okay. And some packages migrated to testing because the RC bugs were downgraded or closed. And then we needed to open or upgrade them again and then fix for real. But anyway, after a few days, many packages fixed or worked around or whatever, and way fewer RC bugs. But what do I do now? I looked at the excuses again and redo the graph manually. That was way too painful the first time, so you don't want to do that a second time. So maybe I should have done that before, but we want to script it to automate it. So switch to the third solution, which is automated Graphviz. Years ago, I was a brand new release team member dealing with this transition, and we had some big set of packages that were being blocked. Oh, that's exactly the same issue we're having here. And I did some preliminary work looking at the HTML version of the excuses. So that involved, I'm not proud of it, parsing HTML. Sometimes the strings would be slightly different because Brittany people didn't know or didn't want to acknowledge I was actually looking at the exact output. So you needed to update it a little. And it was about time that we switched to machine-readable things. And of course, we've got the excuses HTML output, which is useful to copy-paste into the tracker or whatever. But for a number of years, we've had some YAML output as well, which is more likely to be usable for a script. This is a really small extract because it can be a bit big of the excuses file at the beginning of the month of February. This is the puppetdb entry. We see a dependency item with the migrate after and all the packages we've seen before. We see the excuses item, which is basically one entry per each line of the HTML output. We see that this package is not a candidate for all the reasons we are going to see a little below. So this is puppetdb, some metadata, blah, 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 blah. And migration policy verdict says rejected permanently because it doesn't fulfill the migration criteria, so it's not a candidate. And then the policy info block is going to tell us all about all the failures of this specific package. It has 113 days in unstable. It needed 5. That's a pass. That's a green light. Auto package test is not okay. It was already always failing on EMD64. We've got some links and so on. But, and we're cropped here, the verdict is passed because it has always failed. So maybe there's some issue with the CI infra and whatever. So this specific part was not a blocker. But once you get a green, a passing test, you must then reproduce the passing test and not regress on that specific test. We see that at that moment, the package was not blocked by any hint from the release managers. The build depends check, the build using checks, and so on and so on. And there's finally the RC bugs part, which is blocking. The last line is rejected permanently for this specific part because there's an RC bug. Basically, puppetdb was not working at all. When you get the whole YAML file and then do magic stuff and Graphviz, what I'm generating is an HTML page with a link of all clusters, so group of packages that are linked together, and we can see what it looks like. So we've got here, I guess, smart analysis, which depends on many, many packages and so on. We're not going to dive into that one because it's a bit of a big graph. The second one is even worse because there are many NMUs and so on. But we can see more either graph to look into is Nextcloud or Kubernetes or whatever. And I mentioned all the package names so we can look for a specific package in that page and see the associated graph. And I handpicked a couple of graphs to show some actual examples. So this is Avril, the really incredibly stupid web server, whatever, which depends on Erlang Cowboy, which itself depends on Erlang Ranch. So we could have clicked the links. There were just 2 of them, and it was really straightforward. Here we've got some, let's say, tooling or ecosystem, which is really small with Android stuff. Here we've got Kodi platform. So the Kodi ecosystem makes it possible to have some kind of a media box or whatever on your system. So we see that there's a package providing many add-ons depending on many other bits and pieces, which themselves depend on a single platform package, probably that provides some common tools, libraries, and whatever. Here we can see how the Octave ecosystem can be linked after some time with GCC, which itself is involved in many build toolchain or cross-build toolchains and so on. This is an example for the Perl community with so many packages depending, an HTML parser. Okay, I'm not alone doing that. That's comforting. A small example of a couple of PHP packages. That's another Ruby-based set of tools. And we can see that some people don't really want to care about the migration to testing stuff and just upload all their packages. And we can see that we've got quite so many R packages depending on Rbase, which is not a candidate because that was a brand new upstream version and whatever. So thankfully, that's quite a self-contained ecosystem, and it usually doesn't break or block too many packages, but on occasion, it's not really that nice to release team people and package maintainers that are playing by the rules and trying to be civil to each other. Anyway, this is a firmware update package which builds many sign packages. That's a topic for another talk, of course, but we've got some packages depending on their own source packages. The same for shim, which is the really first bit started in secure boot environments. If you wonder why Kubernetes cannot migrate into testing or couldn't at the time, it's because of, some Golang packages as well. And that's about it for the small demonstration. Here there's a richer graph. So basically, when I was still working on puppetdb with my handwritten graph, I added some metadata, for example, the OneSQL closure RC bug, and I added an annotation telling me that was an FTBFS. We see that pantomime closure was waiting on Tika, which itself had some FTBFS bug, but also some CVE, so some security issue. So thank you for to the security team for helping me figure out should we try to upgrade Tika or backport the fixes, or what do I do? Because I don't speak Java at all, and so closure, not my area, Java, not at all. Hopefully I had some help. And we could think there could be more information on that graph. For example, we could have the aging policy. Is this package ready, or was that just uploaded? Do we have some specific hint? For example, does a release team manager, a release team member have a specific hint for this package? Do we want it to migrate urgently? We've got a specific hint for that, and so on. But then the graph would get bigger and bigger. So I'm kind of looking for input. Is there any specific visualization format that would allow me to have many information and then only present them if you click on a specific set of packages, or show me all the aging information or whatever? And I'm really new at this, so I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. And to make it as useful as possible, while yet making it easy to actually get the big picture, which was really the point of my working on that. Perspectives. So, as I just told you, I would like to put more information in the graph. It's really easy. It's all in the excuses file generated by Brittany. The question is, how do we render it? How do we incorporate more information in there? So, aging, hints, and so on. So, yeah, that basically summarizes what I just told you. And the last point is of great importance to me. The fact that I would like all those stuff to be accessible, because I don't want blind or low vision people not to be able to figure out on their own and have to resort to sighted people to help them figure out what's going on with their packages. So the rendering in PNG or SVG is nice enough for many people, but we exclude some more people. So I would enjoy finding some kind of format which would make it possible to actually use it in text mode and not only in visualization mode. On the infrastructure side, that's basically, at the moment, one script running on my laptop, possibly looking at older version of the excuses, because the older ones the output are getting archived. I would like to integrate that into the release of Debian.org website so that we can actually point people to some place and they can be autonomous, and have some link added to the tracker. And to make it even richer, especially when you look into dependencies, you can have one dependency that is not satisfiable because there's a dependency on this or this package or that one and so on. And would like to hook it into snapshot.debian.org to get the exact source binary mapping at this specific time, so we can add some more information on the graphs. if you wonder what happened to puppetdb, it's in testing, as you can see here with R. Madison. I would like to thank Santiago Villa, who helped me with the FTB FSs and figure out the testing stuff and the fact it was file system dependent. Elana Ashman from the Clojure community, who helped me join the team and get review and upload for the Clojure related packages, and some confirmation that why this specific Clojure update broke puppetdb. Emmanuel Bohr and the security team, as I mentioned before, especially for Tika, because Emmanuel managed to catch up with many upstream versions and get a Tika package that was candidate because there were no more known security bugs in there. And Apollon, the puppetdb maintainer, who finally put the cherry on the cake by fixing puppetdb itself. It was a complicated introspection stuff that I really have no chance to find in a year. And it was, oh, easy, there's a patch. And it was uploaded right on the, not right on the deadline, but like one day before. The upload was performed on the 8th, with a soft release on the 12th. And usually you would have like 10 days for new packages. It was not in testing, so how does that work? But then, thanks to the release team for implementing the auto package test bonuses, because, oh, there's an auto package test. It didn't work before, oh, who cares? But it works now, oh. And in 3 days, instead of 5 or 10 or whatever, the package was back in testing right the day before the soft release. So yay! So thank you so much for your attention. I've got some write-ups of my Debian work on my company website because I want people to know and learn about my company, but it's usually really voluntary and free work I put into Debian, but I document that there. And questions are welcome. I'm told there's 4 minutes left.
Thanks for the talk. Are there any questions? Please line up at the microphone.
I don't bite.
So thanks very much for a very entertaining and informative talk. I was wondering, have you looked into using a dedicated graph database to store all that data and make it queryable in interesting ways? You appear to have gone from YAML straight to graphs. Is there some richer world that you could explore?
I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me all about it in a few minutes over the beverage of your choice. So thank you. The real answer is no, because I don't know anything about that, but I'm happy to learn about any pointers you might have.
I don't know that much practically about it either. I think Norbert Preining has done some work in that area. I seem to recall something on Planet Debian.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, I don't see any questions from IRC either. So if there's no more questions, let's thank Kibi again.
Thank you.